Welcome to Life Talk with Mariette. I am Mariette. This show is about the life lessons that shape us, what I've learned, what I'm still learning, and how we grow through challenge, awareness, and purpose. I will share personal insights to motivate and inspire you, and sometimes invite guests who do the same. At its heart, Life Talk is about real stories, real growth, and meaningful connection. This is Life Talk with Mariette. Motivational, inspirational, full of heart. Enjoy the show. Hello and welcome to Life Talk with Mariette. I'm your host, Mariette Cameron. In today's show, Inside Care with Al Criscolo, owner of Executive Home Care in Stratford, Connecticut. We're talking about building trust, how home care agencies earn confidence. And our discussion points are developing a brand, which builds trust, being a trusted advisor builds trust, FAQ on the website builds trust, and success for clients, families, and agency creates confidence. When families begin looking for help at home, they're not simply hiring a service. They're inviting someone into their personal lives, their routines, and often some of their most vulnerable moments. Trust doesn't happen automatically. It must be earned through reputation, communication, education, and consistent care. I'd like to welcome Al Criscolo of Executive Home Care today. Great to have you with us again, Al.
Thank you, Mariette, and I really appreciate being here.
Okay. Let's get started. You're tuned into Life Talk with Mariette, Inside Care with Al Criscolo. So in our first segment, yes, developing a brand in the industry. So I have designed some questions for Al. And when a family first hears the name of a home care agency, what do you hope comes to mind, Al?
It's a great question. I think what comes to my mind immediately is somebody's going to help me with my family member, right? The family as a whole is looking for support or has been through a situation that now needs intervention for that particular individual.
So I hope they think of trust, reliability, and compassion. So at the end of the day, our brand isn't the logo or the website, Al. Is that correct?
It is not. It's really the confidence in knowing that somebody's going to come in who has experience, can help calm the situation, and provide the support to bring confidence to the individual that right now is needing support and doesn't have that independence that they were accustomed to prior to whatever the situation was that occurred that brought them to where we are today.
And since we're talking about care agency, can an agency build a reputation one family at a time, and how does that work?
Mariette, it is exactly that. It's one relationship, it's one situation at a time that allows our agency to uniquely create a care plan. And as we've talked about before, a care plan is not something that gets auto-generated. It's a identified list of services that the agency is allowed to provide under the license from the Department of Consumer Protection that allows a caregiver to be able to help the individual that is going through a situation and can allow them to see where we come into play and what we can do to support them. And as I tell all of our clients and all of our caregivers, it's a living, breathing document. It starts out with tasks and activities, and it is it's allowed to be updated, changed based on the progression, or in some situations, regression of the level that the client needs. So it is definitely something that builds one by one and allows us to then carry forward where we have an extensive base of experience that then allows us to be able to take that to the next client and on from there. So we really work hard to ensure every client gets that custom personal care. And I ensure as the owner of the agency, that all of our caregivers are instilled with the power to understand they are there to help drive the unique activities and tasks around supporting that client and the family member.
Mhm. Because families talk to one another, they talk to each other. Also, the healthcare professionals talk to each other. So the positive experience create another opportunity for someone to recommend your agency. Trust spreads through
Absolutely.
relationships. That's true. That's very true.
Absolutely, Marietta. Trust. I had a experience today where I met with a rehab independent community center here in the greater Stratford area, who that was the focusing topic of our conversation, that there are many agencies to choose from. And if you choose executive, you are definitely going to not only know me, you're going to know our office team, you're going to know all the caregivers, and we will guarantee, and I say we because it's not me, we will guarantee that the services you receive are the services you've asked for. And in the event we have to modify, adjust based on changes, that's what we're here for. And it only happens through communication and that trust in building brand. That executive is known as the organization that does not cookie cut, does not roll out a standard care plan that's been used before. It's a template that has been designed and authorized for executive home care to operate under by, again, the Department of Consumer Protection. And that is customized and built to you, the client, and you, the family that needs the help.
Mhm. In our first segment, it's about developing a brand. And Al, what damages a brand faster than anything else?
The brand is something that gets created and evolves. Home care is the generic title in how I perceive it from a delivery. Home care, non medical services, is in the facet of understanding home care, is deals with ADLs, activities of daily living. And it's a very wide level of service. Our agency can deliver and provide all ADLs except for managing medication, right? The agency has the right to help do what we call medication reminders. And the way you build the brand has all the opportunity to look at what do you do different. I talk to our team, I talk to our new hires, I talk to our seasoned client that have been with us for years. And it's about what is a differentiator? Why do you stay with us for 5, 6, 7, 8 years as a client that started off maybe just needing help, and then as people age in place, they need a little more help, or a family member isn't no longer able to help. And part of what I focus on is what did we do that made you say, I trust executive home care? I trust our caregiver. I wouldn't know what to do without them. And I share that at every level. I share that with prospect clients. I share that with families that I go out and do our reassessments. And we talk about what does trust mean and what is a differentiator? Because we all can say that are in this business, and there's thousands of licensed agencies. Not sure how many are active, inactive, but for executive home care, we are very active, and I carry a very strong brand of if you've got a problem, I want to know about it. And if you've got something that you'd like to see done differently, let me know. Let our office know, schedule variations, because that's what we're here for. And you might love your caregiver and the caregiver might be great, but if they can't accommodate the specific needs of that particular day or week that we're taking care of you, we'll vary it and we'll get an equally competent caregiver to step in while you have those specific changes, i.e., doctor's appointments, need to see somebody longer, or you need to see a different practitioner somewhere and we don't have a caregiver that's on the schedule, we'll identify somebody to fill that in for you. So it really comes down to brand, but it comes down to unique characteristics and qualities to be able to help meet and achieve the specific needs at that point in time.
Yeah. I'm not sure if you wanted to dive into what's really behind the care plan, such as client and caregiver. I do have it in my notes, but let me just continue. How important caregivers are in building the company's reputation, and I think it fits right in where we're looking at the person behind the care plan and the compatibility between the caregiver, which is actually a whole nother show. But I know you like to make reference to that as well. How focused you are matching the right caregiver with your client.
And again, that is a differentiator, Marietta, because I do believe you need to sit and talk. There are situations where we can send the information, the service agreement with the addendums, but nobody can really identify what the scenario is like if you're not sitting in either their home, the rehab center they're getting discharged from, or just sitting across from them. It might be here in our office where many families show up when they are not sure what they're going to be looking for. And I truly believe, and I share that with them, that I get a picture of what the environment is. I get a true understanding of what they're looking for from a care level. But most importantly, what I assure them of and what the rest of our team members assure them of is it's always an opportunity to reevaluate once we start care. So, as an example, we're starting services in 48 hours. We think we need this type of a personality, this type of a characteristic, this type of a capability. And capability is really important when it comes down to delivering care because capability falls under the confidence, but it also falls under the assurance level that gives me confidence, the client confidence, and the caregiver confidence to be able to execute that. I.e., someone's going to need help transferring from a wheelchair to a bed or to a couch or to a commode from a safety perspective. And if that caregiver doesn't understand the criticality of that, maybe they don't, maybe they're newer, maybe they don't have all the strength and demeanor that we're looking for, we wouldn't assign them to that client immediately, right? Because those are confidence that is a differentiator for our agency. We really work hard to understand needs, understand capabilities, and understand what's going to give them the confidence. And, you know, it's one of the more intrusive services you deliver when you have a caregiver who's actively supporting somebody within their personal space on
Mhm.
their medical needs, their personal ADLs. And you need to have a level of comfort that that individual is going to respect their privacy, their dignity, and support that they're looking for in this time of rehabilitation.
Um, would you be okay if I made up a little scenario? I worked on a little scenario, and if I may present it to you, and then it
Absolutely.
rather short. We're talking about Dorothy. She's 84 years old, and of course, she enjoys conversation, community events, church socials, and talking with neighbors. She loves sharing stories about her family and the life she lived. So now we're meeting Dorothy. And what really makes her happy is conversation, visitors, laughter, staying connected, and feeling included. So now we have a caregiver that we're trying to match, somebody who's warm and friendly, enjoys conversation, a good listener, a positive personality, outgoing, and somebody who's very patient. Now, a caregiver who would not really match with Dorothy is somebody who's very, very quiet, one word answers, avoids conversation, emotionally distant, and prefers working alone. So, because Dorothy's greatest risk is not physical health, it's loneliness. The right caregiver brings energy, connection, and companionship into her day. So I worked on this little scenario because we are comparing the personalities, which is so important. So what's your take on that, Al?
So that scenario is lived day in and day out at executive home care.
Hmm.
And I would say it's probably it's lived in and out with many of the agencies because typically a person like that, whether they live in a retirement community, they live in their own private home, they live with family in their own section of the house, or whatever the scenario is, they all want to feel confident and they all want to feel that somebody's there to talk with them, right?
Hmm.
Maybe share experiences about similar situations that the caregiver gets to do with other clients and talks to them about where they come from. We have a little thin 4-page section in our in-home manual that we bring that talks about where we came from. And where we came from isn't just about the client, where they grew up, what their professional experience was. It also talks about the caregiver. Where did they come from? What did they do that led them to be interested and choose being a CNA, a certified nurse's aide, or a home health aide?
Hmm.
Because those are decisions that we use in our interview process. And again, when executive hires somebody, we don't hire somebody because they want a position. We hire somebody that wants a position that meets the caliber and characteristics of our clients, because that is really important. You can hire an individual, but you have to hire an individual that meets who your clients are. That overnight caregivers have much different roles than a caregiver that works what we call our daytime tasks. Someone that's going to help prepare meals and ensure clients have an option in what they choose to eat and understands what's important to them about their history, and do they like to have their bed made every day, and do they want to be part of a community activity, or do they have to just go to the doctors today and we're transporting them because they no longer drive or have adequate resources to be able to do that. So our caregiver does that for them, and it is an incredible amount of trust that you have to be able to give to a client who is putting themselves with somebody that they don't necessarily know initially and they grow to develop a relationship with. And that is something we spread all day long at executive home care. It's not something that we just talk about. It's not something that we just think about. It's absolutely the focus of what we do. And not every caregiver is appropriate for every client, and not every client is appropriate for every caregiver. So it is absolutely the focus of how we assign caregivers. And do we get it right? Absolutely not. Do we get it directionally correct? Absolutely. And then from there, we tell the client, if this isn't exactly what you wanted, or the caregiver says this isn't exactly the client, we immediately work to identify a better resource because now we've learned more. So it's not that there was a mistake. There wasn't a square peg in a round hole. It was an understanding and interpretation and a design, and then we modify it and change it. And I will say, we do pretty darn well here. We do not typically run into a scenario where we have to change out first day, second day. A lot of times it just becomes a personal fit, and it becomes a satisfactory of activities and tasks that need to be done. So it does vary. And that scenario you gave,
Hmm.
Marietta, is exactly what goes on all day long at executive home care.
I think people love to hear that because I wondered and I said, let me ask Al because eh, we want everybody to be happy, and I'm glad I'm glad I brought that up tonight. And before we go to segment two, let me ask you one more question. What is the strong foundation of a strong brand in home care? What is the foundation of a strong brand in home care? Now,
Stability, confidence, integrity, as well as responsiveness.
hmm
Everybody knows what we do, and we have challenges. But if you respond, people feel heard, they feel appreciated, and they feel that they're being treated uniquely for their own needs. I think I've mentioned before, we do not have an answering service. Our phones are answered 24/7 by a live person. We have our phone system set up where every call is recorded, incoming and outgoing. And I do that for many reasons. One is it's important from a compliance perspective, but it's also important to understand that in the event a situation's happened, 2 a.m. the phone rings and a client is being sent to the ER. The caregiver contacts the office, shares the update, gives any questions we might be able to help drive. Know that there's a protocol in place that is uniquely built. So some family members have very specific requirements in the event something happens. And we take that information seriously. It's part of our intake, and we will ensure that that happens. So those things become unique identifiers of this agency. You will not call this office and get a recording. You will call this office, you will get a live person 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Now, we do have an answering component within our phone system that allows a call to go to a voicemail if for some reason we're on the phone for an emergency or we're on the phone that we can't click over, but we immediately know who's calling in. So if it's a caregiver, we can put the other person on hold, take the phone call, and get back to them. So there is multiple ways that we ensure uniqueness of every client is heard and it's managed, but we also make sure that every client knows that if they've got a problem, we're here for them. And we do get some accolades for that, Mariette. I will tell you that you called us back. You answered the phone. We felt heard. And
hmm
if you're an elderly person, whether you live in a community, you live in a retirement center, you live in your private home, when you call somebody, you're not calling to leave a message. You're calling because you have something you want to ask. And to me, that is very important in the delivery of what we do in an agency. It's not only a service business, but it's a service business for people that don't feel well or have an ailment or have a physical limitation. That's what we agreed to do when we took them on services.
Wow, that's very now it's immersing what you're talking, what you're saying. It's I feel it. I really feel it. That's incredible because things happen during the night. Like you said, emergency room. Now people are reaching out. The family is reaching out. What is going to? Oh my God! So panic sets in. So
Well, and I will say this,
Mm,
Marietta, when we have a client, of course, the first thing that typically is supposed to happen is you call 911.
mhm.
We engage all of our caregivers from a training perspective that on intake, clients have the right for a DNR, which is do not resuscitate, a DNI, which is do not intubate. And those are choices people make. Those are great. So when we take a client on services, we understand what their wishes are, what they have legally drafted for their care, and we understand how to respectively handle that situation. So it happens. It happens where folks have their DNRs, their DNIs. We explain to them what the protocol is supposed to be. in the event something happens and how that's to be managed. So those areas are really important to me from a not only an ethic perspective, but from a compliance and a control perspective.
I
We
have a
would never
question.
want to put, yeah,
I have a question, Al. Um, do people sign up with you ahead of time? This might be a question not everybody's asking, but I just thought of that. Instead of waiting till something happens, um, you do things ahead of time. Is this done ahead of time? Can this be done ahead of time so they're registered also with your agency, even though they're not immediately receiving care, but down the road they're there, you're there for them. Is that something that's done in your industry?
Marietta, that's a very specific question that yes, our agency does not necessarily require you to sign up today because you need care tomorrow.
Hmm.
We have, and I work really hard as an agency to ensure somebody thinks they might need, they could need, they should. We'll do the paperwork. It's not overwhelming paperwork, but it's definitely paperwork that has to be in place so that we can deliver care. And so we will execute all the necessary paperwork. And again, we have a service agreement. We've got some HIPAA paperwork. We've got privacy protection. We've got a care plan. And I'll stop at the care plan because to answer your question, we would not necessarily complete the care plan until we know what we're to deliver. So, as I've said before, that is a specific action that defines what we're going to do for the client. And so it doesn't always make sense to build a care plan if we're not necessarily going to be executing it. But I
Hmm.
will tell you this, the order of magnitude, I explained to them what the service agreement is. We don't have a contract. We don't require you to sign up. We don't require you to have services for an extended period of time. The only thing we ask is if you don't need our services once we start, give us 72 hours. That could be a 2 full days, that could be 3 full days, but just give us time so we can reassign our caregivers and effectively discontinue services for you. So what we'll do is I explain the service agreement and then I immediately walk through what the plan of care looks like. And again, if we're going to start in 2 weeks, 3 weeks, we'll come back at the point you're ready and we'll get the care plan defined and executable to ensure the services you need are in place. And I do it all the time. Sometimes I actually do sign up clients and they want to talk with their families that are out of town. If the kids are coming to visit in a few weeks and they want to discuss it in greater detail. But at least, if nothing else, we've explained to them what home care at executive home care looks like. And then all we got to do is come back and brush up the details to move forward with. So I actually like that because then it helps us internally in the office figure out who's the right person for that. And in the event we don't have somebody right away that is going to be able to do that, we start looking at who would be the resource that would be ideal to service that and work towards it so that there's no rush. It's a planned, well executed start.
So, am I understanding this correctly? Because I was thinking of this as we're talking. It makes sense to me to look for an agency that I can trust ahead of time and sign up with them, uh, just for in case. It
You
makes
could,
sense to
you
me, but
could.
I don't know if it's done like that in the industry. But that's the problem. You start running around while things are happening. What kind of it doesn't make any sense to me. I rather do it up front and know what agency to go to. That I just wanted to share my thinking because that would make sense to me, Al. Knowing Al is there, Al and his company, and whatever I need to do to sign up. And as I have the need, and I might be in doctor's care or I might need an operation, 2 months from now, and they're all different situations. But at least I have an agency that gives me a peace of mind.
I I
That
would say,
really gives me
Marietta,
peace of mind.
that is absolutely true. The human reaction is until there's a defined situation, they don't typically do that. So what will happen is we will get calls to understand what services are available because they've already identified that there's a potential need. The need could be mom or dad aren't looking great. They seem like they're getting around a little slower. The house isn't as neat as it used to be. So those are what we call community referrals, meaning there's a need identified that there's been no episode. There's not been an incident that's occurred. It's a
Hmm.
planning. And then I treat those as informative, informational discussions. And those are really, really helpful because sometimes people don't even know what the options would be or could be. There's a industry standard about the number of hours required and the number of days required, and there's people are people and they've got expectations. But what I like to say is tell us what you need, tell us what we can do, and then I'll try to figure out without a commitment at that moment what I could do to potentially deliver that to you. The other side is when they go into a rehab situation or they're in the hospital, the discharge planning activities start almost immediately from admission because we all understand and realize that there's an insurance paying for that, and the hospitals understand that we need to get families prepped and prepared. So that, to answer your question, is more what happens, Marietta, where they'll start calling around, they'll search the web, they'll talk to friends, they'll talk to the discharge planner, and that's where our reputation precedes us. Because if you've had executive before and you've had executive home care, chances are the experience is not only something you would refer to a friend or a family, but it's also something where you can give your experience of what worked that maybe you weren't even aware of prior to it starting. And that's where I feel the biggest gratitude when someone says, if I ever needed care again, I would call you. And if somebody ever asked me, I would
Hmm.
absolutely do that. And if you go on our website, we do have that as part of our website where we do have individuals that have posted their experience. They
Hmm.
leave us reviews. So I'm always appreciative of that. And our team is really appreciative of how those come together. And nothing more makes me happy than I can call up the caregiver that was out there and say, hey, go on the website and read the review that they put out there about you. Because it's not about me. And I think if you ask anybody that knows me, I never use the word I. It's always we, because we
Hmm.
win together or we fail together. And fail is not a bad thing when you're getting an experience that you can then learn from and build on. So those are the areas that we look heavily at as a company,
Right.
but we also look heavily at as how we deliver care. So I never would say to somebody, call us when you need us. What I say is, I'm more than happy to sit down with you. You can come
Hmm.
into our office. I can come to
Hmm.
your house. Those are the things I would say. And it's never too early to plan.
Right, because you're the trusted advisor. You would become the trusted
I
advisor.
like to think of it as that. Yep.
Yeah,
How we can
uh,
help you.
we just slid into segment two because that's what it's all about. And to me, I can only go by how I'm thinking. I like to know up front, who do I call because I trust them and they're there when I need them. That's very, very important to me. It's extremely important, and I am certain it's important to everybody else too because it makes sense. So,
Absolutely.
because we do get sick, we do not live forever. So, that to me is very, very important. Okay, we're talking to Al Riscolo today. inside care and, of course, building trust, how home care agencies earn confidence. Let's talk about the trusted advisor before we move over to the website. What does it mean to be a trusted advisor to you, and what should it mean to other human beings? A trusted advisor.
It's a great question. A trusted advisor, from my view, if somebody said, Al, how do you define a trusted advisor? It's not someone that has all the answers. It's somebody that you have built confidence in or has given you the ability to trust them, because everybody's got an opinion. Everybody's had an experience. Everybody has been through something. But when it comes down to you having to deal with a situation, whether it's your personal self that needs it, or whether it's a family member or a loved one that you're helping out, you want to get an answer to your question. And the only way you do that, and I work really hard at this because I'm always quick to give a solution, but if I've learned anything over my years of being on this earth, it's listen first, digest, understand, and create a formulated response. Because what you think or what you might believe could have absolutely nothing to do with what that person's asking you. So they want to hear, they want you to hear their concern because they trust you, which is why they're asking you. And then you have to give them a formulated response that hopefully gives them confidence in what you could do for them. And it doesn't have to be in selecting a home care company. This could be a friend of yours, it could be a colleague of yours, it could be somebody that you run into that says, hey, I have a question for you. Right? As soon as someone says, I have a question, I love that because it gives me an opportunity to hear something and see if I can help them get a solution or an answer or what next looks like.
Mm-hmm.
And Marietta, I can give you a really cool scenario that was played out for me this past week. Our organization was sponsoring an event at a assisted living center, and our organization was sponsoring an activity. And while we were at the activity, the woman running the activity said, Al, this lady has a question for you. And so she has a diagnosis of Parkinson's, and she's trying to identify how does she create and know who to talk to besides just her practitioners, almost trying to find a support group. So she didn't know me. It was the first time I met her, but knowing what we do, she says, is this something that you might actually be able to help me ensure I know I can be receiving information as it goes? So to me, that felt really helpful that somebody said, let me ask this guy who I've never met, but he's here sponsoring an event for us, if he
Mm-hmm.
could find out how do I meet or get in touch with, or do I already have the right information about understanding Parkinson's, and maybe there's people out there that I could share my story with and help them.
Mm-hmm.
So those are foundational developments that I would do all day long in this industry, because what I know, what this woman knows, and what I could build on that is tremendous. Because again, it's all individual and unique scenarios, and it doesn't matter if you have 20 clients, 50 clients, or no clients. Having that experience to get to know somebody just helps you build your knowledge base and the library of information needed to help the next person.
Absolutely. I totally agree with that. And I do want to ask one question. I like to give the answer before I have you answer, because does trust happen in one conversation, or is it something that develops over time? And allow me to answer it. It does happen on location the first time. Yes, it does. Because it happened to me with my doctor. And you just know it, whether you're a medical doctor or whether you are Al with your home agency. It happens on the spot. And some of it does develop over time, but it does happen where you instantly trust that person. You just know that person is a trusted advisor. You just know it. You feel it in your gut.
And if I could
So,
build on that, Marietta, I think you are 100% correct. But I like to also add how much percentage of trust can you build? And taking somebody that says, I trust what you just said, and
mhm,
that over time, they just become that much more confident in the
mhm,
trust that they put to you. So there could be, I trust you because you look like a respectable person. I trust you because I've asked you questions and you've given me answers. I trust you because I've seen you deliver on what you said
yes,
you would do. And I trust you because you told me you were going to do something and you did it. And
yes,
so you're 100% right. But what I really focus on too is you trusted me for that. But let's continue to build this relationship where I can give you that type of trust at a higher level and a much more intense delivery. And, I always say this to our referral sources. You try us, you've experienced it. Listen, I didn't buy this agency as a one and done situation. I bought something that had been operating for a number of years very successfully. So I had a lot of building trust that I needed to bring to the organization and to all the people that have trusted us in the past. And so that's an uphill battle that I embraced and knew I would walk into. So somebody said, hey, we've trusted executive home care for a number of years. They've done this. How do I know I can trust you? That is something that happens, and you just have to be prepared because you've listened. I understood what I acquired when I purchased the franchise and
mhm,
created my own company. And you have to say, yes, I saw what you did, and we're going to build on it as a team. So I really appreciate you asking that, and I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to further discuss that because many of our relationships to the agency have existed for a number of years. And I had to come in as the newbie, the new guy, and
mhm.
prove to everyone that what we did wasn't going to change. It was just going to be different and get a little bit more customized to my view of where I saw the agency going.
Right. Thank you for that, Al, very much. Let's move over to segment three for developing an effective FAQ for your website. It seems people read first before they start shopping around. Why is this so important? Um, this question and answer section on a website. Why is it so important? And what are the families or the individuals are learning from that?
So, from my perspective, and it's just the perspective that I am operating under, most people are very smart and they like to do their research, whether you're 10 years old researching games and ideas, or you're 85 years old and you've been around a long time professionally. And we have this crazy thing called the internet. And the internet gives all kinds of opportunities to do your research. So most people want to figure it out on their own and have an opportunity to read, understand, versus calling somebody because there's a belief, and I'm not saying it's right or wrong. The belief is, well, let me see what other people think, and let me see what other people believe, and let me see who's out there. So
Mm.
when you do a search on the internet, a Google search, you have the opportunity to get an unbiased response. The, your Google search is going to bring up home care in New England, home care in Connecticut, um, supportive services in Fairfield. So you're going to see a bunch of providers, and then what it's going to do is it's going to narrow your funnel. Your funnel brings you down to executive home care, and you say, "Wow, I read their story. I see what they do. They're in my backyard. They're gonna they are where I live or where my family member lives." So my idea and my focus on FAQs is to help answer those broad questions about our agency, and then it's to help them refine down to if they feel that executive home care is going to deliver on the services that they think they need at that point in time. So FAQs to me are very helpful in all areas. Every company uses them. And I do believe that FAQs have an opportunity to build trust or expand the conversation. Because if you don't know what home care is, or you don't know what it is going to help solve in your particular situation, you've at least read about what we do, where we've been. You could read our reviews. You could look at our service area. You could see the coverage of care we deliver, and then see if it's a good fit for you.
That's right, because uh, companies do put it on there, but it does not necessarily. It starts a conversation. Uh, how much trust it builds, I'm not sure. Al, that I don't know. I think once the personal conversation happens, I think there's an opportunity then for the trust, but
Nothing
not
gives
just,
me more,
yeah.
I'm sorry, nothing gives me more gratitude that when I talk to a family member and they say, "Saw your website.
Hmm.
It's it sounds exactly what we need, and I'd like to know more." So to me, we've already gotten past who we are, and then all I need to do is take them to the next level of tell me what the scenario looks like. Where did you hear from us? How did you hear from us or about us? And then we're already into a discussion versus trying to help them answer the question, do you service the area where my mom or dad live? They already know that because they've seen where we service. And now
Right.
we're getting into more refined conversations around what they're looking for. And in some scenarios, we hit them all. Some scenarios, we don't necessarily hit them all, but it gives me an opportunity to say, let me think about how I could do that for you, and we'll do it. And if we can't, we'll tell you up front. It might be something we have to work towards, but we can definitely get care started. So yeah, I do think FAQs are again a very much a living, breathing document, but they're
Hmm.
also to help people feel compelled, educated, and understanding of what you do versus calling up and saying, I have no idea why I'm calling you, but I think I need help. And we get those calls, and I love getting those calls as well. Our
Hmm.
team loves hearing those calls, but it's also nice when they call up and say, look, I was reading down and I saw what you do, and I just have some more questions. So to me, having an FAQ section helps
Door
weed out
opener.
the,
Yeah,
yep,
door opener. Absolutely, absolutely. Al, we have about 8 minutes left, and I do like to ask you what it means to you in the home care, what success means to you, and how do you define it?
I love that question. I truly believe when we listen, we develop, and we execute, success becomes what the client thought they needed, what our
Hmm.
caregivers helped achieve, and how we were able to return an individual to what we call their new baseline. Because new baselines don't mean you're going to be back to where you were, but you're back to the highest level of independence you could meet. And we were part of the team that supported that for you. There's other team members, there's skilled agencies involved, there could be other family members in place, there could be durable medical equipment that had to be brought in that was used to help return somebody to their highest level of independence. But to me, nothing greater than hearing, you helped us get back to where we are and we don't need your help anymore. Now, some agencies that probably feels weird because you've now lost a client. In my view, I've gained a reference. So it all comes back to what somebody needs. In many situations, Mariette, they don't return to a level of independence and they do need to keep us around, right? So maybe we're in there less hours, less days. But again, they've met their goal of independence to the highest
Yeah.
level they could, which is where they want to be.
Also, the control of their daily life. That's so important. You were able to remain them in their own home. We achieved that from the client. How does the family measure success, their families?
So depending on how involved they are
Mhm.
and how much of the family is the caregiver, having to know that mom or dad are now showering without support. They can get dressed, they can ambulate, they can get out of the chair, they can get in bed, they can potentially get up and downstairs. That's where the family can now call and check on mom and dad or aunt and uncle or whoever the loved one is and know that they're safe. So safety is a word that gets used a lot in the services we deliver, but knowing that they have been able to step back, resume their own life, and that the individual is able to take care of themselves again.
They can also sleep better at night, knowing that their loved one is receiving support and is not alone,
Yep.
or has gotten better with your help. I would say, because everybody will be upset in a family. Yeah. So a peace of mind, very, very important. That's how I would also look at it. Another question I put down for you. Many family caregivers carry a lot of responsibility. Can home care help reduce that burden? I can almost answer this, but I put this down as a question, so I want to ask you and get your opinion.
We absolutely want every family member to be involved to the extent that they want to. And what part we take over for them to not be the caregiver is exactly where we see ourselves. The resentment and frustration that happens when you're constantly being the caregiver distracts from being the family member. And over time, that resentment is really hard to resolve. And I tell everybody, don't back off until you want to, but know that we're here so that you can back off and you can take your mom or dad or loved one shopping versus take your mom and dad, do the shopping and bring it back home. And our caregivers go with the client. They will assist them, accompany them to the doctor's appointment. They will come to family events. They'll take them to the grocery store so that, again, the family member is enjoying their time, but they're not feeling a constant strain because they don't have anybody else there to help them. And to me, that is something that just seems intuitive to care. Many family members are shocked when we say, they'll take them to the doctors for you. You don't even have to take them to the doctors because a lot of our clients can speak for themselves. They're independent. They make their own decisions. And the only reason the family was going is because they didn't have a way to get there. So we kind of take that burden off of them as well. And then our caregiver will report back if the family member feels the need or if the client develops that trust with the caregiver that says, yeah, call my daughter and let her know how it went, and I'll catch up with her later, or
Right.
whatever that happens to be. Stop at the pharmacy on the way back and pick up whatever the prescription change was. So that's where we take over for them and allow them to not be excluded, but they're included. They just don't have to be actively participating in something when they've got other things to take care of too.
Al, we're almost out of time, but I have one more important question for you. If you could leave families with one thought about success in home care, what would it be?
Think about what you no longer want to be involved in, or how you want to bring independence back to the individual parent, and what that's going to look like over time. Because we truly work every day on our visit to bring back independence and to alleviate burdens that family members are responsible for when no one's there to help. So success for them becomes, I don't have to worry about the meal. I don't have to worry about the doctor's appointment. I don't have to worry about the laundry. I don't have to worry that they're going to slip fall because somebody's there for them.
That's right. That's right. And trust is not something an agency can claim. It's something that is earned one conversation, one family, and one act of care at a time. And I love that. I wanted to bring that in. And Al, I want to thank you, Al Criscolo of Executive Home Care in Stratford, Connecticut. We're out of time. Till next time, I'm Mariette Camera, and be well. Thank you, Al, very, very much. Till next time.
Thank you.